Alright, so we have 2, 4, 5. Any others? Alright, so let's do these. Alright, do that quietly. Alright, for number 2. This one is asking, is this relation a function? Remember from previous things, if you have x values going to more than one y value, it is not a function. So here, each x only has one y. So it is a function. If 19 went to 10 and 16, or if 0 went to 10 and 20, if one of the x's in the domain went to 2 different numbers in the range, it would not be a function. Questions on that? For the slope, this is going back to when we did slope. Remember your slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Label them if you need to. So then we have 4 minus negative 2 all over 5 minus negative 1. Subtract those two. 4 minus a negative would really be plus, so this would be 6. 5 minus a negative would again be plus, so that would be 6. So your slope is 1. Remember that variable is m. Questions on that one? Number 4, this one you did have to solve, whereas number 1 you just had to simplify. So this would be negative 6x minus 15 plus 4x minus 36. Combine your like terms. We have negative 2x minus 51. I don't know if that math is accurate. Should be 51. Double check that. I would say unless I multiplied wrong.
No, that's you, right?
Okay. Then get x by itself, add 51 to both sides, and divide both sides by negative 2. Which I believe is correct. Yes. So negative 26 was the answer to that one. Questions on that? Did you have a question?
No, I was just saying that because I kept getting 10 and then I got 2 and then I switched that number to another number and I got it.
10 for what?
For the 2, I kept getting 10, but I messed up.
Got it. Okay. Right, and then for 5, domain and range, this is another for this left and for this right, lowest to highest. So for domain, the furthest point to the left is 0. Furthest point to the right, we don't know, it keeps going. So you can write one of two ways. Either that it starts at 0 and it goes to infinity, or x is greater than or equal to 0. Questions on that? The range, you have to imagine this, but this is going to keep going down off the graph, off the smartboard that way, and then up same way. So it keeps going down and it keeps going up. This is going to start at negative infinity and end at positive infinity. Questions on that? our notes for today. Wanted to remind you that if you have not finished your tests, your name is on the board. You need to get that done by the 22nd. Otherwise, I'm grading it as is, and you'll need to retake. Remember that I'm also after school today, tomorrow morning and afternoon, and Friday morning, so you can come get that done as soon as possible. Friday is also a flex day, but you're also taking a STAR test, so you'll have to manage your time. Questions on that before we start notes?
Wait, the STAR test, just to be sure, is where we are at, right?
Yes. They haven't really told us what they're using that data for, so we're just told to give it, so. To see your level, yeah, how you're doing compared to others.
I didn't use it for statistics.
That, yeah. And if that level has changed throughout the year, things like that. All right, so everyone should have these notes in front of them. And I have to change this. Right, that's not what I meant to do. There we go, okay. Alright, so if you want to take out your notes from last class, that may be beneficial to you, just so you can compare. So what we talked about last class as a quick review reminder, factoring by GCF, looking at what all the things have in common, dividing by that thing or things, number, variable, whatever, and then seeing what's left after you divide that out. That's what we're doing today, but a little bit more. So today we're going to be factoring by grouping. Couple things, when you factor by grouping, you're dealing with 4 terms. So if you see 4 terms, you should be thinking factoring by grouping. If you don't see 4 terms, you should not be factoring by grouping. All right, so light bulb should go off, bell should go off anytime you see 4 terms, factor by grouping. Those two should go together. So we're going to do the first together, and then a couple more, and then any you guys want to see. So in this first problem, notice it has 4 terms, as it should. You're going to split it down the middle. The sign in front of the third term, you're going to put it with the second half. And then you're looking for the GCF of both parts, but we're going to do that one step at a time. So what do these first two have in common? What could we divide out of those first two?
1.
X1, how many X's do they have in common?
1x.
They have 5 total.
2x.
They have 5 total, yes. 2 X's, we could take out of both. Remember that we are dividing that to see what's left. So if we do that, and remember when you're dividing variables with exponents, you're really subtracting those exponents. And if you don't see an exponent, it has a 1. So what would be left?
X, just standard x,
Mm-hmm.
and plus 7.
Plus 7, correct. Okay. Then you're going to take that sign from the second half and you're going to bring that down. Then you're going to do the same thing on the second half. Disregard what you put for the first half. That part doesn't matter anymore. What do these two have in common?
2.
2. So you're going to divide those both by 2. What would be left?
An x and a 7.
X plus 7. So when you do this, your goal is after you factor out the GCFs, your insides, what's inside the parentheses, that should be the same. If it's not, you messed up somewhere. You forgot a negative, you factored out the wrong thing, maybe you didn't factor out high enough, something is off. The next part, you're going to take the outside numbers, whatever you factored out, you're going to put those together inside parentheses. Then if your insides are the same, which they should be, that's really the same factor written twice. So you're going to just write that as one factor. So our answers, or our factors, would be x squared plus 2, x plus 7, both in their own sets of parentheses. We're going to check our answer, but before we do that, do we have any questions so far? Right. This last step says use FOIL, so if you're not sure what that means or what that is, I'm going to write it out. It stands for first, outer, inner, and last. If that still makes no sense to you, we are going to do it. Right? So the first would be the first terms in both sets of parentheses. Multiply them together. X squared times x. What would that give you? X. What did you say? Not squared, because it was already squared. But it would be x to the third, yes. You were close. The outer terms are the numbers or terms on the outside of your factors, x squared and 7. So that would give us what?
Was 7x squared.
Plus 7x squared. The inner would be the opposite of what I just said, so that inner two terms, 2 times x.
2x.
And then the last terms would be the opposite of the first. 2 and 7. So then if we look and we compare that to the original, we have x to the third, 7x squared, 2x, and 14. Even if it was out of order, like let's say the factors we had switched them or something, meaning I put this here instead, so when I multiplied, maybe these two were switched, that's okay, as long as you get the same terms. They don't have to be in the same spot. Questions on that? So let's do another one. For number 1, start the process again. Split it down the middle. What would the GCF of the first two be?
Wouldn't it be 3x squared?
Now, remember this dividing piece that I'm doing right here, you don't have to show this work, but if it helps you see what's left, do it. Yes? So here we're looking for what they have in common. We can divide these both by 3. These both have x's, but this doesn't have 3 x's. It only has 2, and I can't divide this one by 3 since it doesn't have it. So we have to go with what they both have. Okay, so if we divide out 3x squared, what's left? X. 5. The x squares would cancel, the 3's cancel here, one of the x's would still be there. Okay. For the next one, drop the negative down. What do those last two have in common?
2.
2.
That seems like it's in because
Yeah, because you can't take out any x's. So when you divide this, you're going to be dividing by a negative 2, not just a positive. If you divided by a positive, your signs would not match up. So what would that become? Would it still be negative? You're divided by a negative? It would be 5. So plus 5, what was the first part? X. Your insides match?
yeah.
Yes. So if you miss the negative and you divided by 2, you'd get plus 5, minus 5. That's how you would know something's off. Okay. So then the things on the outside are one of your factors. 3x squared minus 2. What's the other one? x plus 5, and you only write that once, even though you see it twice. Questions so far? And we can check it just to make sure. If we multiply the first two together, what would that be?
3x cubed.
3x cubed. And then the outer,
15x squared.
15x squared. The inner,
Root of 2x.
and the last.
Negative 10.
We go back and compare 3x to the third, 15x squared minus 2x minus 10. Minus 2x minus 10, yeah.
So I'm confused on how I was checking out the.
Okay, so here, when we multiply these two, yeah, you're just multiplying. So multiply the numbers together, 3 and 5, and then the x squared just drags along. Did that answer your question? Other questions on that one? Choose the next one you want to see. Do go over, Eva. 6.
Is it back as well, or?
Just on this front page, and then we'll do back here in a bit. Alright, so with 6, start walking me through what would we do first?
Why don't we just take out an x, the first half?
That's going to be like your second step. What is the very first step?
Oh, separate it.
Separate it, split it down the middle, yes. Okay, and then you said take out
Just an x.
1x.
You can take out both x's.
You take out both x's, yep, x squared. So if we're taking that out, what do we do with that?
Times what? Times what?
It's already being multiplied to y. When you say bring down the y, what do you mean? We would bring the y down, but why? What are we missing here? What are we doing with this x squared to bring the y down?
Dividing.
Dividing. So that y would be left, and 3. So there wouldn't be any x's left here. So just be y plus 3 inside. What would we do next?
Bring
Bring down the minus.
7.
And 7 is at it. 7y. And again, divide. So what would be left? What would happen after that?
Y plus 3.
It's the same thing. Y plus 3. Now what?
Bring it down.
Bring what down?
X squared minus 7y and y plus 3.
That
Seems right, yeah.
parentheses.
Yeah,
Yes.
parentheses things.
Questions on that? I'm not going to check that one unless we want to see that, but remember the check process is for you. You don't have to do that part. Does anyone need or want to see the check part? Next one we want to see, do go over, have questions about on this page. Yeah. So So what would the GCF of the left side be?
X cubed.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, no?
Yep, x cubed. What would the inside be?
Wait, actually, it'd be
X plus 4. And then plus, what's your GCF on the other side? 2. We're dividing both of them by 2. What's left? 4. X plus 4. And then what would our factors be? X cubed plus 2 and x plus 4. Questions on that? I want you to rewrite 7, but not how it is. Change the 4x to a. I'm still trying to think of something that would actually make this work out, but every time I've done it, it's messed it up. So it's not going to work out right. So know that already. Change it to 10. 10x. And then do this problem like normal. So again, it's not going to work out right because I made this problem up and it'll be off, but that's okay. There's a point to what I'm trying to do. GCF of the first two?
5.
5. Any x's?
Oh, 5x squared.
5x squared. What would be left if we divide those out? 2. Yep.
2x.
X minus 5. Right, and then bring down the plus GCF of the second two. I didn't do that.
10.
10. 5 would work, but it's not the highest, so 10 would work. Notice that when we do this and divide everything by 10, we will not get the same insides because I made this problem up, and that's where it kind of gets messy. So disregard that the insides are not the same, but usually that would be a big red flag to stop, something's wrong. We're just going to focus on the outside pieces. So if we were at the next step and we were writing our factors, disregard the other one. Is this prime, or can you take something else out? You can take out a 5. So that means we may have missed the GCF at the beginning. So we're going to go back and do that here in a second. So if I took 5 out of this, I'd be left with x squared plus 2. Now the inside is prime, which means here I should have probably divided each of these by 5 first. So check to see if your problem has a GCF, because some of them will, some of them won't. If you see that, divide it out first and then continue your problem, or do it at the end. Remember, that part doesn't matter as long as you do it eventually. So if I divided 5 out of each of these, we have 2x cubed minus 5x squared plus 2x minus 2. Then you would continue the problem like normal. Again, I made this problem up, so it's not going to work, so we're not going to actually do it. I was just giving you an example. Yes?
So if we didn't do it before after we got the full insides, I guess, would they just be fine? If we solve it.
No. All of these problems should work out, except the one I just made up. If you got something different here, I would go back and look at your GCF. Maybe you missed something.
So if there was a test question and it came out 5, would it just automatically be all?
You mean like this part? That part should be fine. But this should be the same. And mine wasn't, because I made it up. Okay. On the back of this, any questions we want to see, go over, have questions about? Or on the very last page of practice problems. Any questions you want to see, go over, have questions about? Okay. So for 7, what would the DCF of the first two be?
7.
Any variables?
K squared.
K squared. You divide that by 7, K squared, what's left? Do the first one first. Okay, for sure.
Sorry. And then the next part
Minus 5. Bring down the plus. What do those have in common?
6.
6. Divide them both by 6, what's left? Okay. Minus 5. I don't think I said this earlier, but if I did, sorry for repeating. You can almost assume what the second part is going to be, but also don't assume at the same time. Do the work, make sure it actually works out. What would our factors be? And
So like if you get like the last problem would that be fine? So I'm confused.
you wouldn't get a problem like that. That you can't keep going. I need to think of a problem that it would work out, but I haven't done that yet. I'd have to probably change both numbers in order for that to work, and I only changed one. Other questions we want to see, go over, questions in general, any last things we are confused about? So for the remainder of class, you have a couple different options. One, if you haven't done the Khan Academy, I would say do that first. Knock it out the way, so you don't have to worry about it on Friday. Then for practice-wise, there are a bunch of problems here. You can use that. If you do all of these and run out and want more, since there aren't any Khan Academies on this, there is a Delta Math. You could practice that instead. That's optional, of course. And then if you want to go back and practice more GCF, either go back to the notes or go back to Khan Academy, redo it, / Delta Math. After you've done at least the Khan Academy, if you need or want to finish your tests, you can come see me to get that. If you need or want to work on retake work, you can also come see me to do that. But do your Khan Academy first. Questions on what we're doing today?